Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we're analyzing the posthumous third studio album from the Swedish producer Tim Bergling, aka Avicii. This one is entitled Tim. Avicii, one of the revolutionary EDM producers from this decade, he stormed into the mainstream with his debut album, True, back in 2013. He lived off the success of singles like Wake Me Up, Hey Brother, Addicted to You, three songs that were infused with this bluegrass, country, and folktronica. Certainly a memorable part to my high school years, knowing that Avicii was there at the beginning of it. He then released his sophomore album Stories in 2015, not nearly as innovative as True, but it still received favorable scores from critics and fans. Then fast forwarding to 2018, Avicii, rest in peace, he passed away. He left a mark on the music industry at a very young age. This man had plenty of potential. He was a hardworking and meticulous producer, but also someone who just loved creating music. Immediately following his death, there were no signs or interest in Tim's family releasing any music, but Avicii himself was working on some new material. Some other producers took over. They finished off the tracks. They include Vargas and Lagola, Bon, Carl Falk, amongst a couple others. But noticeably on Tim, this is going to be the closest thing that we get to a personal self-titled release. I feel like we're not only regaining a sense of the ambition and innovation that Avicii had going for him on his debut record, but I feel like his stage name is more important than ever right here, as Avicii in Buddhism refers to the lowest level of hell. This definition of hell is felt through the music on this project. I feel like it is Eastern influenced, as Buddhism would suggest. It is also a hell of some sort when it comes to the music. It's very loud and noisy with the production style, despite, yes, I know that there's a song on here called Heaven. But yeah, for this review, I'm going to go over some tracks I like, and then I'm going to talk about some of the tracks that I just didn't really enjoy as much. Kicking this off with the song Heaven, this one features Chris Martin. Unlike all the other features on here, he wasn't actually listed in the song title. But yeah, I like this song. I feel like it's a throwback to the EDM that Avicii produced for Coldplay's Sky Full of Stars. This new song here, though, it feels a little bit less generic in terms of the chord progression, and it is quite refreshing to listen to. Next up with the song Tough Love, I feel like I'm finally gripping onto this song for something other than just the string beat drop. I feel like the vocal melody is something that I come away with humming in my head afterwards. So yeah, I think the song just fits in well with the context of the record. Next up, the track Fades Away. This one is a piano ballad intro. The pulsing synthesizers and strings are in the middle of the track, and I feel like this is a weird meshing of styles. It's quite unpredictable as a closing cut, but I can still appreciate that. Certainly not as catchy as some of the other songs on here, but I like how it serves as this conclusion to the album. The song Peace of Mind featuring Vargas and Lagola, this is one of their three features on the album. This one in particular is very dynamic. It opens up with these acoustic guitars that progress into this danceable, groovy bass line, which is quite hypnotic. Then the track SOS, this one was the lead-off single for the project. I feel like it's still derivative with the vocal delivery from Aloe Blacc. It sounds something like Ed Sheeran's Shape of You or TLC's No Scrubs. The beat drop, however, is still compelling, and this is hinting towards that Eastern influence as what I was talking about at the beginning of the video. Another Vargas and Lagola feature on here might just steal my spot for the favorite track on this release. This one's called Excuse Me, Mr. Sir. This one feels like a Sir Sly kind of song as far as the vocal delivery goes, not nearly as derivative as what SOS was, but the beat drop and bass line, oh, this thing, it's the most upbeat and the most life-affirming. Then we get the biggest surprise on this album. It's Avicii collaborating with Imagine Dragons, and this is an artist I'm not a big fan of much anymore. I feel like their last album was a horrid attempt at electronic music. But here I feel like Avicii kind of pushes Imagine Dragons forward, pushes them to that level of where they can actually have a decent electronic song. Dan Reynolds sounds great. He has an excellent vocal performance on here. I feel like he shows off his versatility with not only his screaming, but also the softer side to him with the falsettos. Avicii's drums match Imagine Dragons' style very well. Sonically, it's like one of those movie soundtrack singles that Imagine Dragons put out years ago. Battle Cry, that one's coming to mind. Very doom-filled, and then holy crap, the strings, they just bite with crisp and pristine kind of texture. and it just feels like you're sitting in that room as they recorded that instrument, and it's just right in front of your face. Like there's just an orchestra right there. Elsewhere, the pounding house kick drums are an added benefit to the track once the chorus gets going, and sure, overall the composition feels a tad melodramatic. It's finally something that is helping me get behind Imagine Dragons again, which is nice. Now, I definitely would have thought the Imagine Dragons collaboration would have gone over poorly, but there are some other collaborations on here, other features that don't go as well. So now I will transition to the negatives of this project. The song Bad Reputation, this is one of them for sure. I feel like the Joe Janiak feature, it sounds like this terrible AJR song. It's very clunky and noisy with the production. The wonky vocal effects don't do well either, and I feel like there is some pretty subpar singing. The song Ain't a Thing featuring Bond, this one is walk along. It has a bit more of a slower beat to it. There is an awkward vocal exchange with that beat drop, and it sounds like that kind of music that you'd hear in a clothing store while at the mall. So I'm not really the biggest fan of that. Yeah, it just feels like the stereotypical party's over, where do I go kind of song. And yeah, it's just not the most captivating material. Next up, the Arizona feature on this album, Hold the Line. This one is generic. It's quite lifeless in its composition. I feel like a handful of the songs on this project feel a little lifeless as far as the melody, the composition, and the instrumental go. It just leaves something to be desired, and it's a shame knowing that I am interested in Arizona. I just feel like they don't bring anything interesting to the mix. The other Bond feature on here is called Freak. This one I feel like is a hodgepodge Chainsmokers song, the bouncy production, the vocals, the petty lyrics. I don't get why there has to be swearing on here though. Like, it's so unnecessary and it adds no effect to the music whatsoever. And the pre-chorus, so derivative. I don't get how you can sing, and I told you I'd be different, and I told you I'd be wild. Okay, that's obviously a Bon Iver ripoff. Lastly, I'll talk about the other Joe Janiak feature. This one is called Never Leave Me. I feel like this is a sultry, lovely, the band kind of cut in the verses. Then the chorus features these horrid falsettos, and Avicii's production, very underwhelming. I feel like it takes a backseat to the vocals, which don't really have any support. I feel like it needed Avicii's production to be there to move them along. Overall, with Avicii's newest album, Tim, I feel like this is a mixed bag release with a disjointed feel at the core of it. It has a strong start, it has a strong finish. I just feel like I get bored with the generic and bland beat drops that are in the middle of it that makes it feel like filler. Despite that criticism, I feel like Avicii crafted some of his more compelling and Eastern influence beat drops. You know, he switched up the country or bluegrass aesthetic that he went for on something like Hey Brother or Wake Me Up. Certainly a praiseworthy progression as far as artistry goes, and it is sad knowing that Avicii didn't have his full hand on this project's conception, but there still are a few strong takeaways if you sift through that filler, like I said. I'm feeling 6 out of 10. Sound off down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of Tim by Avicii. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new in town. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a rockin' day.